Hi, I'm Mark Safe, and in this lesson, I'm going to teach you about one of the most important and sometimes confusing concepts in No Limit Hold'em, effective stack sizes. Why is it so important to know your stack size and how it compares to your opponent's stacks in No Limit Hold'em? Well, because in any given hand, you can find yourself playing for all of your chips, or all of your opponent's chips. This means the player with the shortest stack is setting what we call the effective size of the bet. Let's say you're sitting on a nice stack of 100 big blinds in late position and you get involved in a heads-up hand with an opponent in the big blind that's holding just 10 big blinds. If you move all in, the effective stack size is just 10 big blinds because that's the most you can win or lose to this opponent in this hand. In short, in a heads-up situation, the effective stack size is determined by the player with the smallest chip stack. In the previous example, you might consider open shoving the button with a wide variety of hands like King 9 offsuit or Jack 10 suited, because even if your opponent calls, there's little damage that can be done to your stack if you lose the hand. But what happens when you add another opponent with a bigger stack to the mix? Let's say you're on the button with King 10 suited. Like before, the small blind has a stack of just 10 big blinds, but this time we also want to consider the big blind who has 30 big blinds in his stack. Now, the effective stack size you're playing for has tripled from 10 big blinds to 30 big blinds. This means your strategy in this hand is going to have to change as well. While open shoving against a stack of 10 big blinds may make sense, with King 10 or even a weaker hand, the same play makes much less sense if you're now risking 30% of your stack. Let's look at some potential ways to play this hand from the button. Your first option, as always, is to fold. However, if you're on the button in an unopened pot with a hand like King 10, this doesn't seem like a great play as you're conceding the very best position to opponents who are forced to play random hands from the blinds. Your second option is to limp. Again, this is not a great play as you are giving your opponents a free chance to improve their hands on the flop and possibly take a large portion of your stack if you both connect with the board. Your third option is to make a standard 2 to 3 times the big blind raise. This is the best option in this spot, as your raise will likely be enough for you to steal the blinds in this spot. If both blinds just call your pre-flop raise, you haven't committed too many chips to this pot, and you can easily fold your hand to a bet if you don't improve. And most likely, the action will be checked to you on the flop, so you may get to see 4 cards for no additional chips. If the small blind re-raises all in pre-flop, chances are the big blind will fold and you'll be facing a small call in order to play heads up. Even if you think you're behind, you're probably getting the right odds and are risking a relatively small portion of your stack. If the big blind calls the re-raise, you can reevaluate the strength of your hand and either call to see a flop or fold and again give up just a very small portion of your stack. If you decide to call, most likely you'll be behind, but you'll probably be getting the right price to call. If for some reason the big blind re-raises, again, you are now faced with a very easy decision to fold your hand. Now, let's look at the last option, which is that you open shoved your King 10 from the button without considering the big blind stack. If the small blind calls, all in, you're only risking losing 10 big blinds. But if the big blind calls you're all in, you're now in a situation where you're risking 30% of your chips with what is very likely to be an inferior hand.